A hidden contract, a buried payoff. They used me, a secret my parents swore they'd take to their graves. What started as a strange conversation at work turned into a nightmare I couldn't escape because the man I worked for knew and planned everything. About me, my childhood, even the lies my parents told. I have always considered myself pretty normal. Average upbringing, close enough family, steady job, decent apartment, not particularly dramatic. But all of that changed after a weird series of events at work triggered something big. I'm still trying to process all of it, so bear with me. Let me start with the moment everything started to tilt. I work in project management at a mid-sized architecture firm in Chicago. Been there 3 years. My direct supervisor, let's call him Mark, is the VP of the company. He's in his late 50s, serious guy, a little too polished sometimes, but sharp. Everyone respects him, though he's not exactly warm. I never had much personal interaction with him beyond work talk until this one day about 3 months ago when he walked past my cubicle, paused, and did a double take. I remember because it was weird. He stared at me like stared for what felt like a full 10 seconds. Then he kind of snapped out of it and kept walking. Didn't think much of it. Just figured maybe he mistook me for someone else. But it happened again and again. I catch him glancing over in meetings or watching me from his office. Not creepy, just off, unsettling. Then one Friday after work, I was in the elevator alone with him. He looked at me and asked if I had family in the area. I said no, I grew up in the suburbs and my parents live in Michigan now. He gave this weird little nod and said something like, "You remind me of someone I used to know a long time ago." Then he got off on the next floor. It was such a throwaway comment, but it stuck with me all weekend. And that's where the curiosity started. Now here's where it gets really strange. The following week, one of the HR ladies, Gwen, who's super chatty and knows everyone's business, came up to me and asked if I was related to Mark. I laughed it off and said no, not that I knew of. Why? She said, "You just have similar mannerisms, especially when you talk." I thought that was bizarre. How often do people tell you that you move like your boss? Still, I brushed it off. Maybe I picked up on his habits from working under him. But the snowball was rolling now, and it didn't stop. A couple days later, Mark asked me to stay after a meeting to go over some timeline. We were alone in the conference room, but instead of talking about work, he suddenly asked me, "What's your mother's name?" I blinked, caught off guard. I told him her name, Lisa. He didn't react, just sort of nodded again, slower this time, and said, "She wouldn't happen to be from Naperville, would she?" My stomach dropped, because yeah, she is. Born and raised. So was I. So was my dad. I grew up there until I was 12. I said yeah. Then I asked, "Did you know her or something?" And he just said, "A long time ago. We were in college together." Then he left, just like that. I didn't know what to make of it. I called my mom that night and told her my boss asked about her. She got quiet. Not funny surprise quiet, more like someone pressed mute. I asked again, "Did you know a Mark back in college?" Her voice was so thin when she said, "I haven't heard that name in a long time." She changed the subject right after. That's when I really started digging. I pulled up some old photo albums at my place and compared my face to my dad. Look, I love my dad. Always have, but we've never looked that much alike. My build, my eyes, my face shape. Never questioned it before, but now I was squinting hard at the detail. The next day at work, I did something I probably shouldn't have. I looked up Mark's college records. Not in a shady way, I literally just Googled him and found a yearbook archive. Class of '92, University of Illinois. Guess who else graduated in that class? Lisa, my mother. There's even a picture of them together at a campus event. Arm in arm, smiling. I confronted her that night. Over the phone at first. She denied it, said it was just a college friendship, that they were in a few clubs together. But I could hear the tremble in her voice. I drove over that weekend. I asked her and my dad straight out if Mark could be my biological father. My dad said nothing, just left the room. My mom looked like I'd slapped her, and then she just started crying. She didn't even try to deny it this time. After my mom broke down and basically confirmed what I'd feared, she still didn't actually say the word. I had to pull them out of her like teeth. "Is he my father?" She nodded, just once, tiny, like she couldn't bear the weight of the truth herself. I sat there silent for probably 2 minutes, long enough to hear the fridge hum, long enough for my dad to not come back in the room. He was in the house. He just didn't want to be part of the conversation. And in that moment, I realized he already knew. "When were you going to tell me?" I asked. My voice cracked halfway through the sentence. She didn't answer that either. Just started muttering things like, "It wasn't supposed to come up. We never thought you'd meet him. What were the chances?" I got up and left. The ride back to my apartment was a blackout. I couldn't remember the drive. Only that my hands were shaking so hard I had to pull over once. Now here's where it took an even stranger turn. 2 days later, Mark called me into his office. Not HR. Not a group check-in. Just him and me. He didn't sit behind his desk like usual. He sat on the chair next to mine like we were equals. Or worse, like he was trying to be something else. He said, "I spoke with your mother." I felt like I'd been sucker punched. I didn't say anything. Just stared. He sighed and said, "I'm sorry. I didn't want it to come out like this." I asked him one question. The only question I could think to ask at that point. "Did you know?" And he said yes. Yes, he had known. For years. Apparently, my mom told him she was pregnant and he wanted to be involved. But her boyfriend at the time, my dad, had already proposed. They were planning to get married, and my mom didn't want to ruin his life. Mark didn't take it well back then. He offered to raise me. He said he'd take her to court if she tried to keep me from him. But my mom and her fiancé made him an offer. They paid him. They paid him to stay away. Mark took the money. He said he wasn't proud of it. Said he was broke and young and scared. He wanted to fight it but couldn't afford a lawyer. And when they sent a contract, something half legal, half guilt trippy, he signed it. I sat there numb. The room was silent. I couldn't even hear traffic outside the windows anymore. And then he did something that made it worse. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a copy of the agreement, dated and signed. My mom, my dad, him, all three names. names. Clear as day. $25,000 to permanently forego all claims of paternity, visitation, or contact with the minor child. The minor child being me. He said, I kept it. I never stopped thinking about you. I wanted to throw up. I didn't approach you because I didn't want to make your life messy, he said. But when I saw you here, working under me, I couldn't ignore it anymore. You look just like her. And you have my hands. I didn't say a word. I just left the office and went straight home. Didn't even clock out. That was last month. Since then, I've been spiraling. No other way to put it. I confronted my dad, my legal dad, the man who raised me. He confirmed it flat out. I didn't want to lose your mother. She was going to leave me if I didn't agree to it. And I wanted a family. I wanted you. I asked him if he ever once considered telling me the truth. He looked at me like I was a stranger. We thought we were protecting you, he said. Protecting me from what? From the truth? From the fact that they bought me? I stopped talking to both of them after that. Then came the next bomb. HR sent out an internal announcement. Mark was stepping down from his position. Early retirement. No reason given. Just gone. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. 1 week later, I got a message on LinkedIn from a name I didn't recognize. Subject line, we need to talk. It's about Mark. I clicked on the message, and everything unraveled from there. The message was from someone named Jenna R. Martinez. No profile picture, no job listed, but we had a shared connection, Mark. Just 6 words. We need to talk. It's urgent. At first, I thought maybe she was another employee from the company, someone who knew about Mark stepping down. Maybe she got caught in the wake somehow, but I was wrong. I replied, short and cautious. About what? 10 minutes later, she responded, your mother, your real father. I think we're siblings. I sat there frozen. It was like the air in my apartment changed. It got quiet, too quiet. I reread that message at least 6 times, trying to make it mean something else, but it was clear. I messaged back asking for proof, for context, anything. She replied within the hour, sending me a screenshot of an ancestry app. 2 names, hers and mine, half match a shared father. We had both uploaded our DNA years ago. I'd done it on a whim one holiday season when my mom gave me one of those genealogy kits. She thought it'd be fun to trace the family tree. It was her idea. Jenna said she found the match about a month ago and had been trying to track me down ever since. I had privacy settings on my account, but she used LinkedIn to find someone in the Chicago area with my name, my job title, and my age bracket. Then came her next bombshell. She said she was born in 1995, 2 years before me. Her mother, also from Naperville, had a brief relationship with a guy in college. His name? Mark. I couldn't believe it. I now had a half-sister, and she had no idea about me, just like I had no idea about her. Until now. She asked if we could talk on the phone. I agreed, though my heart was in my throat the entire time. The call was short, maybe 15 minutes, but in those 15 minutes, my entire perception of Mark shifted again. Jenna told me she'd met him once. Not recently. When she was 17, she tracked him down with her mom's help. Her mom didn't want her to meet him, said it would only open old wounds, but Jenna insisted. Mark agreed to one meeting. She said he seemed uncomfortable, like he was more concerned about being seen than actually talking to her. He told her he wasn't in a place to be a father and asked her not to contact him again. She left that meeting crushed, but what really twisted the knife was what came next. She said, when I saw your profile, I wasn't just shocked by the DNA match. I recognized your photo. I saw you once. What do you mean? I asked. 2 years ago. I was at his office. I walked past the conference room. You were inside. You were giving a presentation. I felt a chill run down my spine. He didn't introduce us, she said. He rushed me out of the building after that. So Mark knew about both of us, and he kept us both in the dark. Even after stepping down, even after telling me he regretted signing away rights, he still hadn't told me the full truth. And this wasn't just about the past anymore. It got worse. A few days later, I got a call from Gwen, the HR lady who originally said I reminded her of Mark. She asked if I could meet her for coffee. Off the record, we met up at a quiet little place near the office. She looked nervous, really nervous. I wasn't going to say anything, she said, but after what happened with Mark stepping down and now with you, I think you deserve to know. Know what? She glanced around, leaned in, and whispered. Mark was being investigated by corporate. They kept it internal. Something about conflicts of interest, favoritism, hidden payment. I blinked. What kind of payments? She paused. To your parents. Everything stopped. What? I don't know the details, she said quickly, but someone in finance flagged unusual transactions, money being routed to a couple in Michigan under a shell LLC. Regular payments, monthly, like clockwork. I couldn't speak. My heart felt like it was physically trying to break out of my chest. They stopped 3 months ago, Gwen continued. Right around the time you started working directly under him. 3 months ago. That's when the looks started. The double takes. The elevator comment. That's when Mark started seeing me again. Because the payments stopped. Because they cut him off. I left the cafe in a daze. I drove straight to my parents' house in Michigan. Didn't call. Didn't warn them. Just showed up. My mom opened the door. She looked shocked, like she'd seen a ghost. I didn't wait. I stepped past her into the house and said, did you take money from him after I was born? She didn't answer. I turned to my dad. He looked at the floor and whispered, we had expenses. I lost it. You've been taking money from him all this time? You sold me once and then kept him on a subscription plan for decades. My mom shouted, it wasn't like that. No? Then what was it like? She said, it was support. It was guilt money. He offered. We didn't demand it. And then I saw it. The look on her face. The panic. The fear. I said, what else are you hiding? That's when my dad said something I still can't believe. He said, you weren't supposed to work for him. That was never part of the deal. My dad said it again, firmer this time. You weren't supposed to work for him. That was never part of the deal. I stood frozen. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. What deal? My mom sat down, hard, like her knees gave out. She didn't speak, so I turned back to my dad. You better start talking. And he did. They met with Mark when I was about 2. After the original payment, after everything had settled. Apparently, Mark showed up again, said he wanted to be a part of my life after all. But quietly, not legally. They made a second agreement. Mark would get updates, pictures, school info, milestones, report cards, even occasional videos. Everything channeled through a private email address they created just for that purpose. And in return, he'd make regular support payment. He wanted to help provide for me even if I didn't know it. Even if I thought my parents were footing the bill. They used his money for everything. My private school tuition? Mark. My summer camps? Mark. Even part of my college fund? Mark. Did you tell him when I got this job? I asked. My mom whispered, no. That's why it went wrong. Mark found me by accident. That's why he freaked out. That's why he started watching me like a ghost had walked into his office. He hadn't known I was working under him until he saw my name on a team assignment email. And when he did, he cut the payments. Cold, because the deal was broken. And that's when everything started falling apart. I walked out of the house that night and didn't look back. The next day at work, my keycard didn't work. Security escorted me up, said there was a sensitive issue involving my employment. I was told to wait in a conference room. Then Mark walked in. He didn't sit this time. He stood. I'm sorry, he said. This isn't how I wanted it to end. I was shaking. You're firing me? I'm not in charge anymore. This came from the board. The board had discovered the long-term payments to my parent. HR flagged them. Then finance. And the legal team concluded there was a potential ethical violation, favoritism, concealed familial ties, unreported financial interests. Even if none of it was technically illegal, it was bad enough. He was forced into early retirement, but the board wasn't satisfied. They wanted to make sure the company distanced itself. So I was let go. Quietly. No drama. No email blast. Just like that, I was out. And then Mark did something that made everything even worse. He reached into his pocket and handed me an old photograph. It was me, as a kid, maybe 6 or 7, holding a soccer trophy. Behind me in the bleachers, blurry, zoomed in, was Mark. Watching. I used to go to your games, he said. Sat in the back. Always left before you saw me. Your mom sent the schedule sometimes. I just wanted to be near you. Even if you didn't know. I dropped the photo. You had decades to say something. I snapped. Instead, you paid people to keep me in the dark. He didn't respond. Did you know you had another kid? I asked. Jenna? His eyes widened. You don't get to play the victim here, I said. You walked away from both of us. You threw money at guilt and called it love. Mark sat down. He looked old, like everything finally caught up to him. He whispered, you don't understand the full picture. I said, then explain it. You were supposed to be terminated. Everything in the room stopped. What? He looked up slowly. I didn't just sign a waiver, he said. The contract your parents gave me wasn't just to stay away. It was more than that. Lisa was pregnant before she married your dad. She didn't want a baby. At first, I felt my stomach turn. She wanted to, you know, but your dad convinced her not to. Said he'd raise you as his, but only if I disappeared permanently. So I did. And the money? I asked. He nodded. I offered it. I thought, if I couldn't be your dad, at least I could help from a distance. And Jenna? He didn't answer. I realized he hadn't known. He hadn't known about her. She was right. When he saw me in the office, it wasn't just recognition. It was guilt. It was all of it crashing down. Why now? I asked. Why come clean now? He looked at me and said, because I didn't want to die without at least telling you who you are. And that's when I realized he's sick, terminally, dying. That's why he stepped down. That's why he finally cracked. That's why he broke the deal. I didn't say anything else. I walked out of the building, out of that life, but the story didn't end there. That night, Jenna called me. You might want to sit down. I did. I talked to my mom again, she said. And there's something else. What? Mark didn't just have us. What do you mean? There's a third. I was still sitting on the edge of my bed when Jenna dropped the final piece. There's a third. Those words hung in the air like a siren no one could silence. My heart dropped again, which I didn't think was possible at that point. Third what? I asked. Half siblings, she said. Same father. Mark, the blood drained from my face. How do you know? Same DNA match system, she replied. I didn't notice it at first because the profile's private. But after you and I matched, I started digging. And there it was. Another partial match. Same age range. Same overlap. Different mother. I could barely breathe. Who is it? He hasn't responded to my message yet. But I recognized him. Silence. He worked at your firm. Same time you did. Junior architect. His name is Sean Kessler. I sat there frozen. I knew Sean. We had drinks together after the company holiday party last December. We shared rides to the office more than once. Even joked that we looked a bit alike when we both wore the same coat one day. He was Mark's son too. I messaged Sean. No games. Just, hey, I know this is insane, but we need to talk. It's about your father. 3 days passed. No response. Then finally, he agreed to meet. We sat down in the back of a coffee shop on a rainy Thursday. He looked like a ghost. I guess I did too. I got the email from Jenna, he said quietly. At first, I thought it was a scam. Then I looked you up. Then I looked him up. He swallowed hard. It's true. I called my mom. She broke down immediately. Said it was a one-night thing. She was 19. Didn't even know who he was at the time. But later, when I was around 12, he reached out. She never let him in. Said he offered money. But she said no. I shook my head slowly. You didn't know any of this? I asked. He laughed once, bitter. Dude, I was just trying to pay off my student loans. I had no idea my boss was my dad. Neither of us touched our coffee. You know he's dying? I asked. Sean nodded. Jenna told me. Pancreatic cancer, she said. He didn't tell you himself? No, but guess who left me a voicemail last night? Let me guess. Mark? Yup. Wants to meet. Said he wants to tell me something face to face. I already knew what it would be. Mark was trying to line us up, close his loop, tie his loose ends. But he wasn't getting that. I told Sean what I knew. The contracts, the payments, the fact that Mark had been hiding all three of us from each other for decades. Like we were pieces of a life he buried and forgot until we started digging. Then Sean said something that made my spine go cold. There might be more. More what? More us. I looked into the ancestry site. There are 4 additional half matches. 3 males, 1 female, all different last names, all different states, no overlapping mothers. I felt like the room tilted sideways. Mark hadn't just had 3 kids. He might have had 7 or more. And we were only finding each other because of DNA kits. Random chance. Algorithms. Jenna organized a group call that weekend. Me, her, Sean, and 2 of the others who agreed to talk. The stories were eerily familiar. Each mother met Mark during college or after. Different cities. Always brief. Always messy. Always left with nothing except a child. He ghosted them all until he didn't. Each of us at some point got, watched, not helped, not embraced, just tracked like he couldn't let go, but also wouldn't take responsibility. Then came the letter. A week later, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Mark. Inside was a handwritten note. Neat cursive. Like he'd spent time on it. I failed all of you. I was a coward. I thought money could replace presence. It can't. I was wrong. All I asked ask is that you meet once, just once, with each other, not for me, for yourselves. You deserve to know where you come from, even if it's not from someone worth remembering. There was a photo inside too. It was the three of us, me, Jenna, and Sean at last year's company gala. None of us knew who we were to each other at the time. Mark did. He took the photo from the balcony. We were all laughing, and he was up there, watching from above like some twisted puppeteer who didn't know how to let go of his strings. I didn't respond to the letter. Neither did Sean. Jenna tried to write back, but it came back marked undeliverable. We think he checked into a care facility somewhere out of state. He's probably dying alone. And to be honest, I don't know how to feel about that. We've stayed in touch, me, Jenna, and Sean, and two of the others. We've started calling ourselves the Strangers Club. Not family, not really, but something. And now I sit here, looking at that photo again. Three people with no idea they were connected by a man who buried all his sins under decades of silence and money. My name hasn't changed, but my past, my family, my sense of reality, it's all been rewritten.